After his first 20 NBA games, rookie Cason Wallace has already established a role in OKC's lineup, which is really impressive, considering how deep and talented the Thunder are in the backcourt. But the main element that makes Cason stand out on this OKC team is his defense. Now at 6'3" and under 200 pounds, Wallace may not have the physical talent that other NBA defenders have, but as an on-ball defender, Wallace is a brick wall, who's able to absorb contact while defending on the ball, while being able to use that physicality to work around screens. On this play, you'll see Klay Thompson work off this pin down screen, and notice how he puts his forearm into Cason's chest, to then give him a slight push as he separates for a step back. But notice how Wallace is able to absorb that push, and stay in Klay's airspace to make this a really difficult look. When defending in pick and roll, Cason's really good at both navigating around screens, and recovering when he's initially put in a bad position. Right here you'll see Cade Cunningham work tightly off this pick, which briefly puts Wallace behind him. But watch how Cason is able to work his way back in front of the ball, and turn this into a difficult contested pull-up. Now he's defending Reggie Jackson in the open court, and watch how Jackson is able to turn the corner and get Wallace on his hip. But from here, Cason has the strength and mobility to keep sliding and get himself back in front of Jackson, to then reach down and turn this into a jump ball. And again, while Cason may not be the tallest or longest perimeter defender, his combination of speed and stability still allows him to recover when he's out of position. Right here, you'll see this ball handler refuse the screen, and notice how he gets Cason to rotate and completely open up his hips. But watch how quickly Wallace recovers to again get back in front of the ball and turn this into another difficult two. And many plays like this won't always show up on the stat sheet, but it for sure has a huge impact on winning. On this play, you'll see the Thunder switch this screen, but while that switch happens, the screener here now has an open path to slip to the basket. But watch how Cason is able to scramble and get back in front of the ball right on the catch. And from here, he has the strength to wall up and force a difficult push shot. Now, like we've already seen on a few of these clips, Cason has really quick hands, and he's great at finding these small pockets to poke the ball free. Look at this play. You'll see the Timberwolves come down here into a dribble handoff, and watch how Cason here is able to dart right through this gap and swipe the ball free. And that ability to scramble also makes Wallace a pretty good gap defender. Now again, in the modern NBA, the best perimeter defenders tend to have size and length, which allows them to effectively close off driving lanes while being able to recover back out and contest shots. And that's why the best defenses across the league tend to be bigger, and that's where teams like Orlando and Minnesota come to mind. But because Wallace is just your average size 6'3" guard, he primarily has to lean on his quickness when defending in gap, which is pretty effective based on the film I've seen so far. You'll see him on this play slide to the nail to provide extra help on this pick and roll, but from here he still has the speed to sprint out and give a great contest on this three. This play right here is low-key tough, where Cason again slides down a gap to close off this drive, and when the ball gets kicked out, he's able to cover all this ground to still get out and bother this corner three. So as a defender, Cason pretty clearly has a ton of physical talent, but what I think is really impressive is how quickly Wallace is beginning to process the game from a mental standpoint. Cason always plays 1 or 2 steps ahead of the offense, which allows him to constantly be in the right place at the right time. Take this play for example. You'll see Wallace here up face guarding Klay, and when Thompson works off his handoff, notice how this Thunder defender slides out to take away the corner three, but that in return leaves this big diving towards the basket. But watch how Cason here is able to read that pass, and he slides through this gap to snag the ball. So with Wallace defensively, you have a guy who's comfortable taking on a variety of matchups on the perimeter. Plus he has the off-ball awareness to both effectively navigate around screens, plus disrupt the ball in gap. And OKC already trusts him as one of their primary on-ball defenders. I think as time goes by, Cason's only going to get more and more advanced as an on and off-ball defender, and that's also going to make him easier to plug into a variety of lineups. Now, when we move on and look at Cason's game on offense, he does a vast majority of his work off the ball. The Thunder are obviously filled with a ton of scorers and playmakers, So Wallace doesn't have to carry a ton of weight as a scorer or creator, but he's still great at picking his spots throughout the game. So far this year, Cason has been doing a majority of his damage offensively as a spot-up shooter, and at the time of this recording, Wallace is shooting a blazing hot 52% from 3, which is the highest across the league. Now, I think a ton of credit for those percentages should go to both SGA and Jalen Williams, as well as the Thunder's offense as a whole, because Cason so far this year has taken a total of 49 threes, and 0 of them have come off the dribble. And when we look at the film, a majority of Cason's outside looks are not only off the catch, but also pretty wide open. And besides a layup or dunk, a standstill wide open catch and shoot 3 is the most efficient shot in basketball. Right here you'll see Cason space out to the corner, while Shai's playing in pick and roll. And watch how Shai's able to pull 2 towards the ball. Then he's gonna needle this pass through to the roller, which pulls Cason's man all the way down to the paint. And that leads to a practice shot for Wallace in the corner.
They will to kick out the rookie Cason Wallace.
And most of these outside looks simply come from the rim pressure of OKC's guards. Watch Shai here pull 3 defenders into the paint, and he sprays the ball out to Wallace, which leads to another high quality catch and shoot 3. Now because teams respect Cason as an outside shooter, he tends to draw heavy closeouts from the defense, which then gives Cason some opportunities to attack downhill. And while I don't think Cason has the most dynamic game off the dribble right now, he's still pretty good at reading angles off the catch, as well as absorbing contact in the paint. You'll see him here use his eyes to lift Grant Williams out of his stance, and notice how his first dribble is pretty much sideways going towards the sideline, and this gets him completely outside of Grant's frame, which allows his next dribble to be in a straight line towards the rim, and he's able to initiate contact with his inside shoulder to then muscle up this floater. I love this drive here, where Cason gets this defender to fly by, and watch how he throws his body right into the rotating big's chest, and from here he again has the stability to work the ball up into a finish. Now off the dribble, I do think Cason needs to add a little more depth and creation to his game. If the defense cuts off his initial attacking angle, Wallace doesn't have a ton of counters in his game, and it usually ends in a turnover or a low quality pull-up too. But these are issues that don't really show up too often, because again, OKC has 3 to 4 different guys that they can run the offense through. And as Cason develops and gets more comfortable, he could begin to take on more of a load as a ball handler and creator. Now with the limited amount of reps that Cason's had in pick and roll, I've come away pretty impressed with some of the reads that he's already making. Watch him here slow down and put his eyes on the screener, which moves this big out of position and sets up a wide open driving lane. And as this defender slides over, watch how Cason is going to jump early off his ball side foot to lift into this finish before the weak side help can meet him. You'll see Cason use that same finish here going left, where he again jumps early off his ball side foot, which allows him to get off the floor and beat the defense to the rim. You can really see how effective this early step layup is with this angle. Notice how Cason is attacking towards his left, then he's going to jump early off his ball side foot here. And notice how he gets off the floor just slightly before these 2 defenders. And that gives him the advantage to creep this layup over these more lengthy defenders. If you want to see the rest of this video, go check out my Patreon, where you can get the rest of the Cason Wallace breakdown, as well as all my other exclusive videos. The kid's here.